All right, we're going to dive into something pretty wild today. It's this hidden pattern, right? A single idea that somehow connects the miracle of birth, the sound of a highway, and believe it or not, the phone that's probably in your hand right now. And I'm serious, this concept is so fundamental, it might just completely change how you see the world. So, what's the deal? What single thread could possibly tie all of those things together? I mean, a C-section, a noisy road, your social media feed, they sound totally unrelated, right? It feels like a riddle, but the answer? Ugh. The answer reveals this incredibly powerful force that's shaping our lives, our health, and our societies in ways we're only just starting to wrap our heads around. Okay, so to crack this puzzle, we've got to start by looking for clues in the natural world. And where better to start than with the most fundamental information transfer there is. I'm talking about the very moment a new life begins. You see, birth is so much more than just a physical event. It's this incredible, massive exchange of information. In those very first moments, a mother passes on a whole living library of microbes to her child. And this isn't just some random thing that happens. No way. It's a carefully orchestrated process, refined over millions of years, designed to teach the baby's immune system what's what and basically set the foundation for its future health. And here's where it gets really interesting, because we see there are two totally different paths for that information to travel. A vaginal birth, that's like a direct superhighway. It transfers this rich, diverse payload of microbes straight from the mother. But a C-section, well, that's a different route entirely. The baby's first exposure is to microbes from the skin and the hospital environment. It gets a completely different and often way less diverse starter kit of biological information. The whole information highway just got a major detour. And that change, that detour, has real, lasting consequences. Seriously, think about it like a corrupted data file right at the beginning of a huge installation. Research shows this can delay the arrival of key gut bacteria, and that's been linked to a higher risk for things like allergies, asthma, and maybe even autoimmune conditions later on. That first little packet of information, it turns out it matters a lot. Okay, so we've got our first big clue, right? A critical information pathway is getting changed or rerouted. But here's the thing. This pattern isn't just about human birth. Not at all. It's a theme that pops up again and again. So let's zoom out a bit and see where else we can find it. So check this out. This table just lays the pattern out so clearly. You've got human birth, where the C-section alters the microbiome. Then you have plants, where the noise from a highway can literally drown out the signals that pollinators need to find them. And in animal societies, modern farming practices can completely break the chain of how microbes are shared. You see the pattern? In every single one of these cases, some kind of human-made structure or process is squeezing a vital flow of biological information. Okay, so we've gathered the clues, a disrupted flow of microbes, of sounds, of social signals. It's all pointing to one thing. It's time for the big reveal. All of these seemingly separate things are actually examples of one single powerful concept. And we're calling it an information needle eye. So what is that? It's basically any narrow, human-shaped bottleneck that squeezes or reroutes the flow of really important biological information. That C-section, that's a needle eye. That noisy highway, also a needle eye. And yep, you guessed it, that social media algorithm, that's a needle eye, too. They're all constricting the information that living systems absolutely need to function, develop, and adapt. Probably the best way to picture this in your head is to think of an hourglass, you know? It takes this big, wide, rich world of information, all that sand at the top, and forces it through one tiny, narrow passage. And in doing that, it fundamentally changes what comes out the other side. Let's break that down. Step one is the input. That's the rich, complex world of diverse signals. Think of a healthy microbiome or an entire ecosystem of sounds. Step two is the constriction. That's the narrow part, the needle eye itself. And step three is the output. What comes out is a simplified, less diverse, and often a much more fragile world. Now, for something to really qualify as an information needle eye, it needs to have these three key properties. First, there's constriction. Pretty straightforward. It narrows the path. Second, there's asymmetry. This means it doesn't treat all information the same. Some stuff gets through easily, other stuff gets blocked. And finally, and this is the really crucial part, it has to have consequence. It creates real, lasting effects on the health and stability of the whole system. All right, so now we have this powerful new concept. Let's bring it right back home. Because the most powerful, most invisible needle eyes of our time, they're not in hospitals or on highways. They're right in front of you, every single day. I'm talking about your social media feed, your search results, the videos that get recommended to you. These things are incredibly potent information needle eyes. The algorithms running them are designed to sift through a practically infinite amount of content and give you just one tiny curated slice. They are the new gatekeepers of our world. And this leads to a pretty fascinating and honestly kind of worrying idea, the cognitive monoculture. Think about it. Just like a farmer plants a single type of crop because it's efficient, algorithms can feed us a very narrow diet of information because, well, it's really effective at keeping us engaged. But that efficiency, it comes with a pretty big cost. This comparison here makes it crystal clear. On one side, you've got an agricultural monoculture. It's super productive until one specific pest shows up, and then boom, the whole crop can be wiped out. Now look at the other side, the cognitive monoculture. It works in a similar way. It creates really high engagement, but when a powerful piece of disinformation or some kind of panic-inducing news hits, that lack of diverse viewpoints makes the whole system incredibly fragile and vulnerable. And this chart just drives that point home. Look, during normal times, you might see a pretty wide range of information and opinions. But what happens during a crisis, a pandemic, a major conflict, a natural disaster? Well, the algorithms tend to grab onto a few viral narratives and amplify them like crazy. They dramatically squeeze the diversity of information right at the moment we need it the most. So, okay, we've identified the problem. We've seen this hidden pattern of information needle eyes everywhere, from biology to technology. So now the really big question is, what do we do about it, right? How do we go from just seeing the problem to actually finding some solutions? Okay, if there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this: the structure of how information flows. The actual shape of the pathways, that is a critical variable. It matters immensely. It's not just about the what, the content of the information. It's about the how, the health, the diversity, and the resilience of the channels that information flows through. And once you get that, it opens up a whole new set of design principles. For example, designing for redundancy. That just means, hey, maybe don't rely on one single social media platform for all your news. Or enabling passive restoration. That can mean creating online spaces where you can just stumble upon new ideas, more like a digital town square instead of a perfectly curated walled garden. It's about protecting that information flow when it matters most, like during a crisis, and actually building these systems with the people who are most affected by them. Now, to be clear, the goal here isn't to get rid of all bottlenecks. That's impossible, and some filters are actually really necessary. They protect us from genuine harm. The real challenge is to design smarter, more thoughtful needle eyes. We need ones that can filter out the bad stuff without accidentally strangling all the richness, diversity, and novelty that any healthy system needs to learn, adapt, and grow. So that leaves us with one final thought, a question for you. Now that you have this idea, this new lens for seeing the world, start looking for it in your own health, in your community, at your job, in your own information diet. Where are the hidden needle eyes in your world? And maybe more importantly, what crucial information is getting lost on the other side?